Welcome back to the new norm. I'm Dr. Lou Graham. This program is brought to you by Midway Dental and Catapult Education. In part one of this program, I was talking to Todd Erdman. He really deals with 99% of his time in his practice is dentist, dentist, dentist. And we ended our last discussion about that dentists may not be responsible for covering an employee once if they contracted the virus, about covering them for the 2 weeks that is law and that medical workers may be exempt. I want to go back to that conversation because, as he was saying, there's also an ethical thing. These people are in our practice. So first off, Todd, welcome back. Is there anything more you'd want to say about just the employee if they sadly got the virus, responsibilities of the dental office? Anything else I missed?
So, what I would say is very much a statewide issue. And I know you have a nationwide following. So, what I recommend is when we reopen, have an attorney, a labor and employment attorney on your speed dial. So if someone gets sick, you can have a conversation. The Department of Labor is coming out with regulations this month. So in the next week, this information can change. So the important thing is to know that even though you're a healthcare provider and you likely do not have to worry about the FFCRA, you want to have an attorney to help you and guide you through the process.
Okay. So need an attorney for that. Now I'm going to ask you another question. So we're in a high risk area. So now, what if your employee says, you know what, I really don't want to come back to work because I'm just not comfortable. What do we do? What do we do?
If they have a fear of imminent harm, OSHA guidelines say that they don't have to come to work. So if we fire them and they have a true fear of imminent harm,
Yes.
there's a potential to have a retaliatory discharge, a wrongful discharge claim. So what I'm telling people, and this is what I call wartime advice,
Right.
okay? So this may not age well, but as of this moment, if someone really does not want to come back to work,
Right.
I'm recommending let them keep collecting unemployment, and if you have to hire someone else to perform their duties, do so. You don't want to have someone coming to work that is terrified, that's going to cause an impact, negative impact the practice. And we don't want them to sue you if they start getting the sniffles and whatnot. I mean, God forbid, and I'm not, belittling this situation. I'm just saying if they have a true fear and they don't want to be there, they're probably not going to be the best person to be at your practice in a lot of ways.
Okay, but openly, if you have that employee, they go, I'm done. Can they, do they quit? Or do I fire them? I'm just trying to understand this. Walk me through this.
Eventually, they will be deemed to have quit.
Right.
And what will happen is the labor attorney will help you create a letter that will basically say, I have offered you your job back. I need you back. I need you back immediately. If you're not back here by this certain date, and then it'll either say they're terminated or you'll be deeming them to have resigned. Every state is different in that respect. But one way or the other, you're basically saying your job is no longer safe here. It's done.
Right.
They will probably still be able to collect unemployment.
Right.
And then, therefore, everyone can just kind of move on. You hire someone else, they collect unemployment. Eventually, the unemployment benefits are going to dry up and they're going to have to go work elsewhere.
Okay.
But terminating them immediately is probably not a good idea. It's going to beg for litigation. You're better off just letting them stay home, collect unemployment, do the best you can to work without them. And if the time comes that you just absolutely need that person to fulfill that duty, give them a last chance and then hire someone else.
Okay, so let's say I get my PPE money and I'm supposed to hire everybody back and she doesn't want to come back or he doesn't want to come back. What do I do? Same thing?
You're in a bit of a pickle,
Yep.
but one nice thing about the PPP program is you don't have to hire the same people. If this,
okay.
Yeah, that's the nice part of it. So if you are re-establishing the business, let's say it's mid-June, and I know that's super optimistic, and you're reestablishing the business, and you call someone and they say, "Ty, I'm so sorry, but I'm too fearful, or I just can't come back. I have no one to take care of my kid," whatever it might be. Then if you hire someone else and you get to the deadline, and as long as you have the same number of folks, the same general wage scale, then you still will be able to have
Okay,
forgiveness.
next question then. Okay, so let's say you have one of your team members has diabetes or high blood pressure, and those have been shown to be comorbidities with COVID. And again, they say, I've got this comorbidity thing. I really don't want to come back. I think they fall into the same line as the patient who's fearful. They're quitting based on their fear of coming back and contracting the virus. Would that be the same kind of category? Am I off there on that?
Not at
Okay.
all. I think that if they, again, imminent fear.
Fine.
And the main thing is the way you react to it. I think is probably the best way to describe the difference. And that is if you say, I understand
Right.
your fear and I appreciate it.
Of course.
Let's take some time.
Right.
Let's take some time, stay on unemployment, but just understand I'm going to have to get someone here soon
Right.
to fulfill your duties. I can't do this forever. And then at some point we have to cross that bridge. The hope is that the state and federal government can still pay unemployment, but that person may have to get a different job if this is their fear, because a vaccine might be a year away.
No doubt. So let me ask you the next question, and it's been brought up. Do dentists have a release form that I'm Joanne, and I am coming back to work under my own free will. I have not been forced to come back to my job, because if they say they were forced and now they sue you because they got sick, do I need to have a signature that they're coming back of their own free will?
I'm not familiar with any guidelines from the Department of Labor on that or state law.
Okay.
It's something that I will be in collaboration with the law firms I work with that specialize in that area and asking if they suggest anything. But so far, I've not seen any mandates or that would really help. I think people come back to work. It's voluntary. They're getting paid unemployment. And the unemployment could end up being a pretty good program. So they'll be coming back because they want to work, because they want to help people.
Okay.
But that is a possibility, some type of a one-pager that just
Right.
says, I'm coming back voluntarily, I understand the risk.
Okay.
But there's going to be protections overall. If you're operating a healthcare facility, there is inherent risk in that, and people have to understand when you're exposed to saliva, your chances of being exposed are obviously high.
Okay, so wait, you brought up something, so I'm going right back at you. Here's my next question. Mm-hmm. There are basic guidelines. I'm so sick of social media and everybody with social media and hassling and this, and this, whatever. Okay, aerosol's a big issue. So you bring somebody back, and they're working in your office, and all of a sudden they go, I'm going to sue you because you don't have X, Y, and Z equipment that office over there is advertising or my best friend is working at. I mean, I just, because these guidelines are so all over the board: filtration, negative air pressure, N95 masks. And don't misunderstand me, I believe in maximum safety. So what prevents somebody then from walking out of that office if they contracted, God forbid, the virus? And let's say that everything went well, they got healthy again, but they sued the office based on I wasn't protected enough. How do I avoid that?
Answer is you can never avoid being sued. All you can do is set yourself up, have the best defense possible.
Okay.
So best practices is what you want to strive for to the best of your ability. I know it's extremely frustrating what is being put on the internet right now, but state dental associations and the CDC, they're doing the best they can to put out guidelines. I know they just put out guidelines about face masks.
Yep. So, okay. So with that, let me ask you a question. So I really believe in testing, and I'm not even going to get into this. I really believe in antibody testing. If you get I've got a great company we're going to be working with. They're going to be CLIA waiver free, so we're going to be able to do this with a waiver. They're pending FDA approval. I want to know if somebody's in my practice, if they've got IgG, if they've got IgM. If they got IgM, I may want to do a saliva test. it's just a test. So my question is it best to have some kind of waiver holding me of responsibility because all I'm doing is providing the test and the answers to that test? Should I be having some kind of waiver if I'm going to be doing tests to cover my butt?
I do think the answer to that is yes,
Okay.
because the antibodies do not prove immunity.
Right.
So it's obviously the right path towards immunity. But what we don't want to have happen is someone has the test, they have the antibodies, and now they feel like they're invulnerable. And they go out and they get sick again, and something happens, and now they're looking at you saying, well, why? You gave me this test, I thought I was okay. So an explanation of what the test means and then a waiver of any rights to sue based upon it is not a bad idea.
Okay. Okay. So in your world, what lawsuits did I miss as a dentist going back to work? What else? Did I miss anything?
Well, the labor and employment is a big one.
Okay.
And so we talked about
Yep.
that. Just what happens after we reopen. And that's why you want to have that attorney on speed dial. And that's probably 90% of it. Because if you didn't have any staff, you just go back to work, right? And you'd see your patients. And if you get sick, you're not going to sue yourself.
And
So the patients, obviously, it's a scary thought, but I have to assume there's going to be some immunity. There's going to be protections for healthcare workers out there, because if they come to your office and they get sick, first of all, it's going to be difficult for them to prove that they got sick at your office unless they literally are quarantined 24/7. But if they do decide to come after you, it's something that we're going to have to be talking to our insurance companies about, and what happens when I reopen. So I think having a dialogue with your insurance company is advised to say, when I reopen, what happens?
So,
because as I said, go ahead.
so let me ask you this then. Do I have, again, another consent form? We are practicing it to my patients. We're practicing in COVID times. We're doing our most to take care of you in a safe manner, but they sign knowing we are in COVID times and that the practice is doing the best. In other words, I'm just trying to get a release form also that they know we're doing our best, but there's still some risk here. I mean, I don't want to discourage patients from coming back. Of course not. But like you said, there's no 100% right now. I mean, there's just not. And listen, I don't want to get sued. It's just such a nightmare and a headache that I just think, is an extra release form from a patient worth having in a practice, or is it just useless?
I don't think it can hurt. Well, actually, I take it back. It probably can't hurt you. The one way it could hurt you is it could scare people from coming
I agree.
back. So that's it. That's the only thing we have to consider, is the balancing act between encouraging people to come and get care and protecting the practice. And there's got to be a middle ground. So one of the things that I'm going to be doing, because I talk to other attorneys every day, is speaking with some of my healthcare specific attorneys and colleagues and saying, is there a form that we think all these practices should have?
Right.
So when people come back, it says something. So that's something that down the line is definitely worth a further conversation. And obviously I would share with you anything I have so you can share with your viewers.
I guess, listen, everybody's going to practice differently. And if there are universal guidelines and an office doesn't follow at least universal guidelines, well, poo-poo on them. We have to be following at least some universal. Now, if someone wants to do testing or do other things and that's beyond the universal, so be it. I just think if they're doing universal guidelines and someone signs a consent form, at the very least, they should be hopefully covered by their insurance company that they've done the right thing. And I think you would agree.
100%. And just having that acknowledgement that they understand they're coming voluntarily, that there are risks involved, there's saliva in the air.
Yeah.
I mean, it's dentists are first responders, in my opinion, and because we are going, and I'm not a dentist, but as a collective group, dental is going to be at the front lines. The first responders, the doctors, they're seeing all the sick people. The dentists are going to be seeing people that think they're healthy.
Right.
So it's definitely, it's scary times.
Right.
And one of the things I'm telling people is communicate with your staff. Try to communicate with your patients to the best of your ability. People are going to be looking to you for leadership. And they're going to be looking for some optimism as well, because it is scary times. So this is an opportunity to really show yourself to your patients how important you really are.
And I appreciate that. So to close this, And I honestly, you're a good lawyer. You're a good dude. I'd love to have some tequila with you. And in 35 years, watch the Bears finally beat the Chiefs. It won't happen for the next 10. But all kidding aside, is there anything else that you would like to, closing points as dentists start to go back to work? We've covered a lot of legal issues. I think they must have a lawyer. I really believe that. And if you don't, you really should find somebody who really specializes, I feel, in dentistry or really highlights it. Is there anything else I missed in our 2 broadcasts with you?
I think monitoring the recommendations with the CDC and the state dental societies. Although I agree, it's tough. It changes every day. There's so much information. Right. You can ask your staff before they come back, have they exhibited symptoms? It's okay to ask those questions. You just have to keep the answers confidential. You don't want to ask it on a Zoom meeting. So you're doing this on an individual basis.
Very good point.
It's fair to ask, can they work? It's okay to say, do you have childcare? Because if they come back to work for a day and then they quit and try to claim, well, I have a child to take care of now, I get 10 weeks of pay. First of all, that law most likely doesn't apply, but even if it did, asking these questions will help to know where you stand with your workforce. Obviously, contacting Midway and seeing what the status is of getting the personal protective equipment. We know there are going to be requirements. We don't know to what level yet, but again, just doing the best you can to communicate with your staff and with the patients, letting them know you're here, you care. This is all important in all senses, because guess what? If someone thinks they have a legal claim against you, that doesn't mean they're going to file it. Because when you're a trusted part of their family, which is what a dentist is, that helps the process.
Got it.
And no one knows what's going to happen tomorrow.
Right. So with that, love the idea. Don't do a Zoom meeting and think it's HIPAA compliant. It's not, everybody. I love that closing point. Todd, thanks for being on the show. Really, really enjoyed our time together. Hope to see you in Chicago. I'm going to hire you. This is Lou Graham for the New Norm. Take care, everybody. Be smart and be safe. Thank you. So let me be clear. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your questions. So what we want you to do is we want you to go to education@midwaydental.com. Shoot us your questions. We'll go right to the experts. I know I'm not the expert, so let's go ask the experts what we should be doing as our next step next week, the week after, and thereafter. I look forward to hearing from you.